The prospector found 73 pairs of boots still standing upright. That was what Jacob Hensley reported to the territorial marshal in Santa Fe on the morning of September 3, 1889, his hands still shaking as he tried to light a cigarette. 73 pairs of boots arranged in neat rows outside the bunkhouse in the mining camp of Copper Ridge, each pair still laced tight, each positioned as if the wearer had simply evaporated into thin air. The boots were the only things left of 216 souls who had gone to sleep in a thriving silver camp and were gone by dawn. Copper Ridge had been carved into the eastern slope of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains over 3 years. The silver vein struck in 1886 was one of the richest ever discovered in the New Mexico territory, producing over $40,000 in ore every month. By the summer of 1889, Copper Ridge was home to 216 people, miners and their families, merchants, a doctor, a school teacher, a preacher who held services every Sunday in the mess hall. And then, on the night of September 1st, 1889, every single person disappeared. Jacob Hensley had been prospecting in the hills 5 miles north when it happened. When he rode into Copper Ridge the next morning to trade for supplies, he found a ghost town. Not the slow kind that came from a played-out mine. The kind that looked like everyone had simply stopped existing mid-motion. The saloon door stood open. 3 glasses of whiskey sat on the bar, still full. A hand of cards was spread out on a table, chairs pushed back as if the players had just stood up. In the company store, the cash register drawer hung open, coins scattered across the counter. In the boarding house, beds were unmade but still warm to the touch. A baby's cradle sat by the window, still rocking slightly. In the kitchen, breakfast was laid out, biscuits on plates, eggs congealing in a pan, coffee pots still warm. Outside the bunkhouse stood those 73 pairs of boots, pulled off according to camp rules, waiting for feet that would never return. But what made Jacob's blood run cold was what had been left behind. In the center of town, directly in front of the company office, someone had built a cairn of stones 6 feet high. Atop it sat a human skull, bleached white by sun and time. Hanging from the skull's jaw on a leather cord was a silver pocket watch, its hands stopped at precisely 2:47. Carved into the wooden door of the company office were 5 words: "La Sombra takes its payment." Jacob recognized that name immediately. La Sombra, the shadow, and more importantly, he knew the man who led them, Thaad Mercer, though most who whispered his name in fear simply called him Thaad. Thaad Mercer's story had become legend in the mining camps. He had been a mine foreman in Colorado back in 1883, working the Redemption mine outside Leadville. A good foreman by all accounts. Fair but firm, a man who knew how to keep men alive underground. Then came the collapse on March 15th, 1883. A support beam failed and the mountain came down on 16 men. The rescue teams dug for 3 days. When they finally broke through, they found 15 dead men, their bodies crushed and broken. But Thaad Mercer was alive, sitting in a small pocket of air, surrounded by corpses, covered head to toe in blood that was not his own. He did not have a scratch on him, and he was smiling. The rescuers called down to him, told him he was saved. Thaad looked up with eyes that had gone completely black and told them, in a voice as calm as Sunday morning, that he had made a deal. That something in the deep earth had spoken to him, something old and hungry. It had offered him his life in exchange for a promise, that he would spend the rest of his days feeding it what it craved most. They assumed he was delirious. They hauled him up, took him to the doctor, kept him under observation. Thaad seemed to recover. He thanked everyone, attended the funerals, gave a eulogy that made widows weep. Then he collected his pay and disappeared. 6 months later, the entire Redemption mine camp vanished overnight. 73 people gone without a trace. The only thing left was a cairn of stones with a pickaxe driven through a human skull. Then the pattern emerged. Every few months, another remote settlement would cease to exist. Mining camps, ranching outposts, way stations, always the same. No bodies, no blood, just empty buildings and interrupted life. And always a marker, a cairn, a skull, a message. Survivors spoke of a pale man with dead eyes seen lurking around camps before the vanishings. A man who asked strange questions about how many people lived there, about the layout, about when people slept. A man who called himself Thaad. The authorities connected the incidents and found Thaad Mercer's name. But tracking him and catching him were different things. Thaad moved through the territories like smoke, always one step ahead. And he was building something. Word spread that Thaad Mercer was recruiting, creating what he called La Sombra. He sought out the broken and violent, promising them purpose. He told them their acts of darkness were not crimes, but rituals, offerings to something vast and ancient that would reward their devotion. Now, standing in empty Copper Ridge with that grinning skull, Jacob understood that Thaad and La Sombra had been here. He forced himself to search further. In the largest bedroom of the boarding house, he found a message written in charcoal. That Mercer sends his regards to those who remain. The shadow is hungry. The shadow is patient. The shadow will return. Jacob's duty pushed him to the mine entrance. He took a lamp and descended 300 feet. At the bottom, at the entrance to Tunnel 4, he found something that made him drop his lamp and scramble up the ladder so fast he tore the skin from his palms. The tunnel entrance had been walled up with stones mortared with something that smelled like copper and salt. Set into the wall at eye level were 27 pairs of human hands, severed at the wrist and pressed into the mortar, palms facing outward, fingers spread wide as if pushing against the barrier. Jacob rode for Santa Fe without stopping, without looking back. The marshal organized a posse of 12 men. What they found confirmed every detail. The empty town, the warm beds, the boots, the message, the terrible wall of hands. But there was something new. In the town square, furniture from the schoolhouse had been arranged in a circle. 14 small chairs atop desks, each facing outward. On each chair sat a child's primer open to the same page about the letter S. On each page, someone had drawn a shadow in black ink, reaching toward the words. They found wagon tracks leading south, dozens of wagons with heavy loads. The posse followed them for 30 miles until they simply stopped in the middle of a meadow, as if the wagons had been lifted into the air. The territorial government kept the truth quiet. Survivors from other vanished settlements came forward, and the pattern revealed Thaad's dark vision. La Sombra was not a gang, but a cult built around Thaad's belief that something ancient lived in the deep earth. He claimed it had spoken to him during those 3 days buried alive, shown him visions, promised him power. Their method was precise. Thaad would identify a remote settlement and send scouts to watch for weeks. Then, on a moonless night, they would strike, moving in complete silence, using chloroform-soaked cloths to render families unconscious. Children were taken first to ensure parents stayed compliant. Within an hour, an entire settlement could be emptied and loaded into silent wagons. The victims were taken to old, abandoned mines. In October 1889, a cavalry patrol found one such mine in the San Juan Mountains. Inside was a vast underground prison. Hundreds of people were shackled to walls, forced to dig ever deeper. Among them were 67 survivors from Copper Ridge, skeletal and mad after 6 weeks underground. They spoke of Thaad preaching about the thing in the deep earth, about how their suffering fed it. When the cavalry tried to rescue them, La Sombra sealed the entrance with explosives, trapping everyone inside. By the time reinforcements dug through, everyone was dead. Each body bore a brand on the left shoulder, a shadow stretching from a vertical line, Thaad's mark. Over the next year, La Sombra struck 6 more settlements. They took a wagon train of 72 people. They emptied a cavalry outpost. They raided a mission, taking priests and 37 Navajo children. Each time Thaad left messages, cairns, declarations that the shadow was growing stronger. The territorial governors hired the Pinkerton Detective Agency. After 8 months, they found Thaad's base, connected mines in the Sangre de Cristo Range. On July 15, 1891, 60 men assaulted the complex. The battle lasted 3 days. 47 cult members died. 13 were captured, though 3 would hang themselves in their cells after carving Thaad's shadow symbol into their own flesh. But Thaad Mercer was not among the dead or captured. They found his quarters decorated with human bones, walls covered in symbols painted in blood. His journal contained hundreds of pages about the entity he served, about payments of suffering it demanded, about visions of a world consumed by shadow. The final entry read, "The shadow calls me deeper. I go to pay my own debt." Behind his chamber was a tunnel descending at a steep angle, far deeper than any mine had reason to go. The cavalry followed it down for half a mile before the air became too thin and the heat too intense. The tunnel kept going, disappearing into darkness their torches could not penetrate. Thaad Mercer had walked into that darkness and never emerged. 23 people from Copper Ridge were rescued from various mines, including 3 children. Most could never speak of their ordeal. The children aged rapidly after rescue, as if their time underground had stolen years from their lives. The pocket watch from the cairn was returned to its owner, Thomas Webb. He said it had been taken the night of the disappearance, stopped at 2:47, the exact moment he woke to find a cloth pressed over his face and Thaad's dead black eyes staring down at him. Copper Ridge was never resettled. The mine was sealed, the buildings left to decay. Today, only foundation stones mark where the town stood. The official death toll was 417 confirmed victims, but the true number was likely over 1,000. As for Thaad Mercer, his fate remains unknown. Some believe he died in the deep tunnels. Others claim he survived and fled south. For decades after, there were reports from Central and South America about settlements vanishing overnight, about a pale man with dead black eyes who preached about shadows and suffering. The watch sits today in a museum in Santa Fe, hands frozen at 2:47. Next to it is a single boot, still laced tight, still waiting. And late at night, security guards report that sometimes the watch ticks. Just once, a single impossible tick, then silence, as if something in the darkness is still counting time, still waiting for Thaad Mercer to complete his final offering, still hungry for the fear and suffering that feeds it.